My girlfriend burned my rare comic collection for social media fame. So, I made sure she would pay for every issue. I'm 27. I've been collecting comic books since I was 12. My grandfather taught me about comic preservation, sharing his love for storytelling, and eventually passing down his prized Spider-Man first appearance to me. Year after year, I poured every spare dollar into building my collection. Each comic was carefully selected, preserved, and displayed in custom-built cases that lined my apartment's spare room. Then I met my ex-girlfriend, Becky. I don't get it, she said early in our relationship, watching me carefully slide a new acquisition into its protective sleeve. They're just old magazines, right? I try to explain. Each one is a piece of history. This issue, first appearance of Black Panther, changed superhero comics forever. She nodded, already pulling out her phone to check her social media notifications. I should have seen it as a warning sign. At first, Becky's influencer aspirations seemed harmless enough. TikTok dances, Instagram reels, typical stuff. Then she met them, the extreme pranksters as they called themselves. "Baby, you have to see this," she squealed one day, showing me a video of someone's car being filled with cement. "Isn't it hilarious? They got like a million views." I frowned. "That's destruction of property, Becky. It's not funny." She rolled her eyes. "God, you're such a buzzkill sometimes. It's just content." The prank started small. I came home one day to find my car filled with packing peanuts, Becky live streaming my reaction. "Surprise!" She giggled, phone trained on my face. "The comments are loving this." I spent 4 hours cleaning it out. "Please don't do things like this," I told her afterward. "I had important client meetings today." "You're being too sensitive," she replied, already editing the video. Look how many views we're getting. Then came the clothes prank. All my work attire, replaced with identical items 2 sizes too small. I had to call in sick while I went shopping for replacements. "The video's trending," she exclaimed when I confronted her. "We should do more together. You could be part of my brand." I noticed her influencer friends eyeing my comic room during their brainstorming sessions. The way they whispered and pointed made my stomach turn. "The collection is off limits," I said firmly. "Those comics aren't just valuable, they're irreplaceable. Some of them were my grandfather's." "Obviously," Becky replied, looking hurt. "I would never touch your precious comics. I know how much they mean to you." When I had to leave town for a work conference, she swore up and down that everything would be fine. "I promise," she said, kissing me goodbye. "The comic room is sacred." I get it. 3 days later, I opened my apartment door to the smell of smoke. Black marks stained the living room ceiling. My heart stopped. The collection room looked like a war zone. Ashes everywhere. Empty display cases with melted plastic. And there, among the debris, a single corner of Amazing Fantasy number 15, my grandfather's pride and joy, now reduced to cinders. My phone buzzed continuously. The live stream had gone viral, but not how Becky had planned. I watched in horror as the footage showed her and her friends dousing my comics in lighter fluid. "Welcome to the Burn Your Boyfriend's Precious Things Challenge," they chanted, giggling as they set fire to my life's work. "Don't forget to like and subscribe." Comic collectors in the comments were losing their minds. That's the first appearance Spider-Man they just burned. I count at least $150,000 worth of comics being destroyed. Is that an X-Men #1 in that pile? Are they insane? Becky burst into the apartment, mascara running down her face. "Baby, I'm so sorry," she cried, trying to hug me. "I didn't know they were worth that much. But look how many views we're getting. We're trending everywhere." I stepped back, my voice ice cold. "Get out." "What? Get out." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Her eyes went wide. "What are you doing?" "It was just a prank. For content." "Yes, officer," I said into the phone. "I'd like to report the destruction of property valued over $150,000. Becky's screams echoed through the building as the police led her away in handcuffs. Her parents showed up the next morning. "Let's be reasonable," her father said, trying to sound diplomatic. Surely we can work something out. She's young. She made a mistake. A mistake? I gestured to the ruins of my collection. She deliberately destroyed over $150,000 worth of comics and live-streamed it for profit. You're being dramatic, Becky's mother insisted during one of the pretrial hearings. They're just old magazines. How could they possibly be worth that much? Actually, my lawyer said, walking in right on cue, they're valuable collectibles, and we have video evidence of their deliberate destruction for monetary gain. Shall we discuss the lawsuit? The testimony from the comic grading companies was devastating. They brought in large photos of my collection from before the destruction, pointing out the precise grades and estimated values of each issue. This amazing fantasy number 15, the expert said, adjusting his glasses as he examined the photos, was in 9.2 condition. Given recent market values, we're looking at approximately $150,000 for this single issue alone. I watched Becky sink lower in her chair as the expert continued listing values. Her lawyer tried to object, claiming the estimates were speculative, but they had documentation of recent sales for similar grade copies. And can you explain the significance of this particular issue? My lawyer asked. Beyond its monetary value, this is historically one of the most important comics ever published. It marks the first appearance of Spider-Man, completely changing the superhero genre by introducing a teenage hero with real-world problems. The judge leaned forward. In this specific copy, based on the documentation provided, this copy had remained in the same family since its original purchase in 1962. Single-owner pedigree adds significant value in the collecting community. Becky's defense tried a new angle, but surely my client couldn't have known the true value. My lawyer was ready. He played a clip from one of Becky's earlier social media posts. Check out my boyfriend's amazing comic collection. Her voice rang through the courtroom. That Spider-Man first appearance alone is worth more than a house. Maybe I should sell it and buy myself a Birkin bag. She had laughed in the video, but wasn't laughing now. The text messages from her influencer friend were even more damaging. But what if it really is worth that much? The friend had written, "Better not to think about it," Becky replied. "The views will be worth more than any dusty old comic book. Won't he break up with you? He'll get over it. Plus, think of the reconciliation video we could make after." As these messages were read aloud, I felt physically ill. The calculating nature of it all, the complete disregard for anything I cared about, it was overwhelming. The final blow came when they played the entirety of the burning video. The court watched in silence as Becky and her friends made a show of selecting which comics to burn first. Save the Spider-Man for last. One friend called out, "That'll get the most views. This is going to break TikTok." Another laughed, pouring lighter fluid. "Don't forget to like and subscribe." Becky chirped, striking the match. The video showed them burning my collection piece by piece, laughing and chanting their stupid catchphrase as decades of comic history went up in flames. When the last piece of amazing fantasy number 15 caught fire, one of her friends actually cheered. "This is totally going viral." They were right about that, at least, just not in the way they'd hoped. The judge's final ruling was scathing. The court has rarely seen such a calculated act of destruction, performed solely for social media attention. The defendant not only knew the value of what she was destroying, but specifically chose to destroy the most valuable items on camera for maximum effect. The total judgment came to $250,000 to $175,000 for the collection's value, $50,000 in punitive damages, and $25,000 from each participating influencer. Additionally, all revenue from the video and related content had to be surrendered. "But I can't pay that," Becky wailed. "I'll be in debt forever." "You should have thought of that before burning $150,000 worth of comics for views," the judge replied coldly. The aftermath was both heartbreaking and heartwarming. While I'd lost pieces of comic history that could never be replaced, the collecting community rallied around me in ways I never expected. Old Joe from my local comic shop organized a network of collectors to help track down replacements for some of the less rare issues. comics bring people together. He told me, helping me catalog new acquisitions. That's something those influencers will never understand. The comic shop became my sanctuary as I rebuilt. Sarah, my new girlfriend, worked there part-time while studying library science. She noticed me coming in regularly, always carefully examining each issue before purchase. "You're the one who had his collection burned," she said one day, not as a question, but with genuine sympathy. I watched that video. I couldn't sleep that night, thinking about all that history just gone. We bonded over our shared love of comics, particularly Silver Age Marvel. She understood why certain issues meant so much, not just for their value, but for their cultural impact. As for Becky, last I heard, she's still living with her parents, working retail to pay off the judgment. Her influencer friends scattered when their sponsorships dried up, their prank channels dead after brands wanted nothing to do with people who destroyed valuable collectibles. She tried to make a comeback with a carefully crafted apology video, but the comments were flooded with detailed lists of every comic she'd burned, their historical significance, their value both monetary and cultural. "I learned my lesson," she sniffled in the video. "I never meant to hurt anyone." The top comment simply read, "Actions have consequences. No amount of views is worth destroying something precious to someone else." I keep that burnt corner of Amazing Fantasy number 15 framed on my wall, not just as a reminder of what was lost, but as a lesson about trust, respect, and understanding what truly matters. Sarah and I were in the comic room yesterday, carefully filing new acquisitions in their protective sleeves, when she noticed me looking at that frame. "Your grandfather would be proud," she said, "not just of the new collection, but of how you handled everything." "How do you figure?" She smiled, carefully sliding a comic into its sleeve. "Because you didn't let it make you bitter. You're rebuilding, helping other collectors, sharing your love of comics with others. That's what it's all about, right?" I thought about my grandfather, about all he'd taught me, about the community that helped me rebuild, about finding someone who truly understood why these old magazines meant so much. "Yeah," I said, watching her handle the comics with the same care he'd taught me. "That's exactly what it's all about." The security system hummed quietly, protecting our growing collection, not just of comics, but of memories, trust, and understanding. Sometimes the best stories aren't in the pages we collect, but in the lives we build around them. I think Grandpa would have liked that ending. I learned about the importance of protecting what matters to you, both physically and emotionally. Now I have security systems and insurance for my collection, but I'm also more careful about who I let into my life. Trust, like those rare comics, should be earned and protected. I could have let this experience make me bitter, could have sworn off relationships, or given up collecting entirely. Instead, I chose to rebuild, to trust again, to find someone who shares and respects my passion rather than mocking it. Sometimes the most valuable things in life aren't the ones we can put a price tag on. They're the lessons we learn, the people who stand by us, and the strength we find to start over when everything seems lost. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.